Okay. Class is going to be fascinating in a couple different ways. One is we did not have time to translate our notes into the class, so I'm going to live literally zoom in and out of a picture of our notes. So, and then I have a picture of the notes. So there's a lot of interesting topics, but
It's gonna be like you're in the room with us.
yeah,
and
like if
using our
we were in a whiteboard
walls.
and just kind of talking, that's
Yeah.
literally what we're going to try to mimic. And the topic itself, I think, is fascinating. And so the title of the class, maybe for people to think about, is what is the opposite of abandonment? So think about it, put it in the chat if you want. We use chat actively. If you want to rename your thing, so it's like name, comma, company, comma, location, you get a sense of where everyone's from. But so the question is, what is the opposite of abandonment? And I'm hoping as we take you through this class, you don't walk away thinking you have another illness.
Yeah.
But I believe you will see, we all do. And had an interesting conversation with Megan. We have a farm up in the roof and we're just kind of watering it every morning. Oh, by the way, when we're out, I don't know if anyone here can just spray the few that don't have water. So Laura, Kathy, if you can.
That's great. Yeah.
We appreciate it, but
Our
it's not all done.
our sunflowers and
Yes.
and the real flower
The-
thing doesn't have a.
that edible flower thing. But we were talking about how if you think of physical, and it's not even physical, but you think of cancer, you think of liver disease, kidney disease, Alzheimer's, and come in with a list of different stuff. I remember this conversation with Chef Danny before. He was pointing to a tree and he was saying, Charlie, see this? He's like, that's a mutation. Like we have that in our bodies everywhere all the time. It's when it's out of control that it turns into what we would call illness. And so this notion of our liver is getting poisoned, our kidneys are getting poisoned, our, all kinds of autoimmune
Brain.
diseases of every sort, Alzheimer's. You think of like things like insulin resistance, and we're doing all this research and just looking at like kind of how gray hair happens. Like, so different stresses in my life, my hair is like, and it's interesting that my thesis, and I think I've read enough, I'm starting to read more and more. I think you can reverse it. Like the main reason it's happening, there's core nutrients that are not going to that hair follicle. So if you're able to actually get the nutrients to go, you might be surprised how you start to have a luscious full of dark hair as opposed to grayness, right? And gray and white hair just looking like it's just dead, but still growing, right?
It still grows.
It's still
That
growing.
is
So
the
it's not like
interesting
it's dead, so you don't have to get a haircut. You still have to pay for a freaking haircut, cutting that dead hair, right? So it's not dead, it's just missing nutrients.
Missing nutrients.
But this notion of we are always getting sick. And so the people who are not sick, who don't fall into whether it's cancer or Alzheimer's or whatever, are literally training so much. And it's so baked into their routines and automatics that the average individual thinks you're doing nothing. Like you look great and you see someone who's healthy, whether their skin looks great and whatnot, it's like they're like routining bone broth and they're routining cold plunges, saunas, whatever it might be. There's a plethora of stuff that's baked into their automatic. And so if you ask them what they're doing, often they won't even know because it's so baked into their automatics. And we think about disease, we think of all those things, but what do you think happens when it comes to our mind? How sick is our mind? And how sick is it getting every day? And what are we actually doing? Or in most cases, not doing. And so we'll go into abandonment and kind of the depth of it is interesting. So should I
It is
jump
interesting.
into
It just made me think of like you can actually see when somebody's physically taking care of themselves, but mentally and emotionally, you can't necessarily see it, especially for yourself. I think that's why, and we talk a lot about self-awareness in here. That's why I think the self-awareness part is so difficult, right? Because you have to find litmus tests, right? For it, you have to actually figure out like litmus or tests, or you have to make it easier for other people to tell you. I mean, there's like all these routines, I guess, and habits and disciplines.
And by the way, we're talking about this right before this class. People talk about awareness and it's like I got it or I don't, right? People think about manifestation. I got it or I don't, right? You ask like, what's your why? let me tell you what it is. The BS and maybe the real corrective insight is no, they're all highly iterating moving targets. And so if you are not constantly getting more self-aware, if you're not constantly, figuring out what success is and looks like for you, if you're not even constantly working on how do you get there, and you're not constantly even evolving, why are you doing it in the first place? You're not doing the work of getting stronger. Instead, you're actually dying. It's like old white hair eventually just waiting for it to fall out. Meaning, like, I think the hard part to understand is that being healthy, being alive, being mentally healthy, physically healthy, it is a relentless fight every single day. So much to the point where you start to strip out and figure out the most important, brilliant, the basics, and then you do it like, it's like so in your automatic, you don't have to think about it. So anyways, we'll go into this.
Okay, so let's see on the chat. I
Sorry.
haven't looked at it to see, you guys are you
Opposite
answering?
of-
something? Well, okay, opposite of abandonment, right? Just before we get into it, just to give you a chance. What is the opposite of abandonment? Terry's saying unconditional love and adoration, love from Big Papa. From the Boston group, ownership, support, and nourishment. Any other guesses if you don't know the answer, right? From the team here does know, because we previewed it them last night.
Oh, how about our in-person guest?
Feeling loved.
What would your guess?
The opposite of abandonment. Real self-care is the first phrase that comes to mind,
Yeah.
but I feel like there's
Okay.
another term for it.
Yeah,
Okay, self-care.
self-care.
Wei saying persistence. Monica saying not abandonment of your own self.
That sounds like a not answer. What's the opposite of fear? Not fear. So the punchline answer is community. And I think when you dig in deeper, community is such an overused, misunderstood word. Think of connectedness, but I think of not just, oh, I'm like part of a huge group and we all love each other. And then you go and see what they do when it's stress tested. And I would say that doesn't count. And I always loved this example back and forth. Years ago, we did a lot of work with Josh Wakeskin, chess champion and whatnot. And he was sharing all this research about high performance teams. And one of the best examples was looking, and I haven't mentioned this before, swimmers. I actually swam in college, and swimming is a miserable sport because it occurs in the winter. And you're wearing the equivalent of a male bikini bottom, and you're jumping in the freezing cold water. And most practices also occur like 5 or 6 in the morning. So that's just miserable. Like, I'm sure if you live in Florida, maybe a little bit
more
better.
fun, yeah.
But generally speaking, waking up that early and then jumping in the water. And so when you watch most swim teams, and this has been in the studies, like everyone's like miserable, like complaining, groggy. It's like kind of really, it's like jumping into a cold plunge, right? That early in the morning, who wants to do it? And you're going to swim for like 2 hours straight. Like, it's not like you get a lot of breaks.
Yeah.
And if you like throw up in the water, no one even knows, just to keep swimming. It's like all part of it's miserable. But they said, if you look at Olympic swim teams, and this is where the absolute best, like differentiate and separate from everybody else. 5 in the morning, they're joking around. There's so much banter, laughing. They're like, 5 in the morning, goofing around, laughing and joking. It's still dark most times in the winter before they jump in. And that, to me, is community. Not when, oh, we love each other because it's the day off and it's the weekend and it's this and that. No, it is literally, you're about to go into stress. You're about to jump into freezing cold water and swim your ass off for 2 hours while even gagging and throwing up first thing in the morning, and they're joking around. Like, and it's not like everyone comes prepared with a joke. So it's like,
Right.
let's have icebreakers. No, it's just in their automatic. That demeanor of feeling team, connectedness, community, right before you're about to go into stress. That's the opposite of abandonment. And so let me give you a sense of what we're doing. And since we don't have as much time, we're going to try to fly through this, but stay with me if you can. Let's see, I'm having all kinds of computer issues. So give me a second. It's okay. It's like I need to move
Yeah,
my
to
mouse,
move
so
it
I'm gonna
around.
zoom in and out and
Yeah.
if my, I'm getting a new computer, but it's like, those of you who know, it's like getting a new phone, actually, that's not true. It's easy to get a new phone, you just have to
Yeah.
re-log in, but I feel like it's like, I'm gonna give up everything is what
Getting
it
a new
feels like.
house or something,
Right,
yeah.
so what is the opposite of abandonment?
Mhm.
I put this image here. When I think of abandonment, and I'll show you like, there's many images you can look up, but this idea of you're shot in the back, right? And oh, I didn't see that coming. And the overprotective nature for us to prevent an arrow being shot in our back, which means you can't even see it, right? Like you can't even see where it's coming from or who even shot it. But let me prepare for that. And there are these elements that show up that I would say, like, I hope nobody's insulted that we all have cancer growing in our body. We also all have Alzheimer's and we have all kinds of other issues all growing. And once you recognize that, you accept it and understand the layers of it, you start to work harder at actually training against those diseases. But in the same way, when it comes to our mind, we'll kind of talk about the idea of the Satan's mind. We have the Satan's mind in our body, and that is eating more of your thoughts and your mind share than anything else. I was telling Megan, like I watch these random videos, but love animal stuff. But I don't know if you've ever seen the video of a praying mantis where there's this like parasite that lives in their body. And so the way you get it out is you have to like dip the bottom, right, of the praying mantis in a cup of water. And because it's suffocating, it starts to like crawl out of its ass. And this thing is maybe 6 times longer than the praying mantis. It's in there living as a parasite. And this notion of how
You just
we,
suffocate it to get,
yes.
for it to allow itself to get the parasite out. It's like getting Satan out.
And like literally, like obviously this human gets the parasite out for the, because it got in there when it was small, right? Kind of like
Oh,
the Satan
geez,
mind was
that's
in
like
there when it was
so-
small, and it
it's like-
grows in you.
It's like when you're a child and you have childhood trauma. Is that?
No, but like, no, but see, like, so we'll kind of go into this a little bit, but this idea that it's in you and it grows.
Yeah.
And if you're not like kind of dipping your ass in water and getting it out, it's gonna keep growing. And there's new versions growing all the time. And we were watching this other video where snakes, if they don't shed their skin, they actually suffocate and die. That notion of you have to break through from the mind, that Satan side. Now, that sounds kind of depressing, but here's the flip side. So our next first Thursday, the first Thursday of the month, we do something big. We're focusing all on entrepreneurs. And so there's a group that we've done a lot of work with. They've got like 160 chapters globally, and it's called Founders Institute. So it's just another one of those incubation groups that create founders. And so every year they do a big event, and they're doing it with all the major universities here. So Cornell and, like Princeton and Columbia, NYU. So the top entrepreneur graduates, students, and undergraduates, there's 150 of them coming to give 1-minute pitches with a panel of mentors. And so we're hosting this event on August 7th, I think, right? But Founders Institute, the New York chapter, we had adopted and hosted in our office for years, in our old office, before COVID. And one of the reasons we had hosted them is I love entrepreneurs because you're spending time around human beings that literally just use the power of their mind to create. And everything is connected to how well they perform. And so they're usually athletes that need to train to become elite, if not they die. The consequences are not like, well, it's like, I have a corporate job and today was a bad week, right? And this month I got nothing done. They're like, they die. They literally cannot pay rent. They have to fold up, and the pressure they feel. And so Megan and I spent a lot of time, we got ranked as the top mentors in the East Coast for the Founders Institute. But then as we I built the requirement of almost all our leaders to have to mentor founders. And the act of trying to teach and mentor these young entrepreneurs with so much energy ended up actually getting our leaders to understand what they don't know, what they do know. And so anyways, Founders Institute, we're bringing them in, but what I'm curious is before we do a main event, we do the sit down Michelin dinner with Chef Danny. It's usually 12 people. And we have like a 3.5 hour intimate discussion. And I was just writing down this morning, the question I want to ask them is this: how has FI changed, Founders Institute changed from those days when we had it versus now? And the main reason I ask is the primary focus of almost every one of these startup groups has been first and foremost fundraising. Everything is about making the pitch. Everything is about building everything they do. It's like a 16-week weekly course they do with a cohort of people. It's all about fundraising. And why do they fundraise? So they can hire engineers. Like literally, that's been the
formula.
top formula and driver. So now, how has that changed? There's companies doing $1 billion in revenue, never fundraise, bootstrapped. The amount of revenue growing without needing to fundraise at all. And when it comes to hiring engineers, they're like, nope, I vibe code with AI, so I don't even need engineers. So you don't need the engineers because all the tools, and a lot of them are practically free. And then bootstrapping. So what happens now? What's the focus? So I'm curious what that will go, but we will share with you after we have that discussion. But I'm sharing this because we are in a completely different time, and I think it's exciting and opportunistic that everything that is solvable is literally down to your own human thinking, problem solving, brainstorming. If you can imagine it and you can iterate that version and test different ways to get there, you can do anything. You can literally do anything, big company or small. And that is hard for people to understand. And one of my pet peeves for just in general is most people are really good at not authentic leadership, not authentic, innovation and creation, but performative leadership, performative innovation, performative brainstorming, performative, imagination and creating. And so how to see the difference? Because if you find a team that's authentic, it is like the swim team. Even if you're a baby version, you'll grow. If you cling on to the performative ones, it is just like that parasite in the praying mantis.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time before it gets really
It's interesting, Monica and Chris recently incorporated a new company. They've started their own business, they're vibe coding. So it's interesting between the two. Congratulations to solve problems with family caregivers, patients with dementia and Alzheimer's.
Great.
Very good.
So this is a slide that I'm going to go and zoom in and out of and go into. I'm going to jump all over. A picture of this slide is what I used this morning. So I'm going to start with a picture of the picture and then maybe dive into the different parts. So let me do it this way so I can maximize the screen and zoom in different parts. All right, give me a second here. Let me set up. All right.
I think the point you were just making, so just going back to it, which is, how has FI changed? Entrepreneurship, how has it changed? It used to be around fundraising so that you could hire software engineers. It is really interesting. I'm curious, what founders now, what the true challenge is for them. But what Charlie is always talking about is that two people, right? Even just two people. And now this is, for instance, Monica, you and Chris, I know you're together. So, there's different challenges that good and bad, but just two people who are authentically training and developing, it's saying they could do, they can create anything with just their own mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything, because there's so many tools now available. So all the constraints that used to exist to create a business, you just don't have anymore. You used to need probably a few $100,000 to at least
I would say
started.
the biggest constraint is now going to be your own mind and the battle between the Satan that you're growing. And then these new skills that you have to learn, which, Daniel Kahneman, I talked about him in last lib class. That man won the Nobel Prize in 2002. And he's quoted now still heavily for the breakthrough work that he's done and decision-making and human behavior. And I would say if you follow Kahneman's thing to a T, you're gonna fail miserably. So we'll go more into that a little bit. But if you love Kahneman, you probably hate me already right now, but that's not why I'm doing this. So, just really quick on the right, I'm just gonna read you some of my notes. This is from the picture and then I'll go into details. So this is more to help me just kind of chat with you here. The first thing I wrote is, no matter what the problem is, and this is something very difficult people to grasp, if you see it, that's recognition, that's awareness. You literally start solving it if you can see it. This notion of, but when people say, so I got it, and can you repeat it to me? I'll repeat it to you. And usually when I hear that, it's a litmus test for no, you don't understand. Because once you see something, you'll start to begin the journey of understanding. Layers and layers and layers. We're talking
Yeah.
about like kind of how important strength training is. And everyone's like, I got it. I'm like, oh, no, you don't get it. Because once you start understanding it, you'll start to understand there's all different combinations of kind of how you have to have protein, but you have to this, but if you cold plunge after, you won't grow muscle. And I mean, there's a good zillion layers and you'll start to realize it's endless. And in the information age, you don't think people are experimenting and throwing in new insights left and right, including 99% bogus? So you have to sift through all the dumpster fire trash to figure out what works, and to then just understanding something is an ongoing journey. And so when people say, I got it, I'm like, oh God, no, that person usually doesn't.
So just
So-
understanding something is an ongoing journey, right?
Layers,
Just under-
layers. So
Yeah.
I say, do you see it?
Yeah,
So describe it to me. Tell me what your journey's been. Tell me what kind of stuff you're heading towards. That's someone who understands. So first part, awareness, recognition, do you see it? The second part is this. Can you imagine what success looks like? Tell me what success looks like. Do you see that? Like, tell me when it works. What does that look like? Not when, well, can I tell you why it won't work? No. I'm not talking about Satan's work. I'm talking about like God's work. What does winning look like? What does success look like? Can you imagine it? Like that notion of Eden. And now tell me where you were before, where you are now. Walk me through your journey, the iterations, and that alone also is layers and it's a journey. And so what does that look like? What routines do you have that make you, get more aware every day? What routines do you have that makes you actually imagine what winning and success looks like? After you do that comes okay, how do you get there? And how do you get there isn't, well, through a strategic plan or through the 4 Ps and the, 4 business jargon a-holes and whatever else. Not that, right? How do you get there? That's an iteration. The iteration, the pathways to get there. I see this path, this path, this path, and then there's so many unknown paths you discover as you go down the journey. So walk me through your journey. Where did you start? What did you start with, approach, and then what changed and who influenced you most and where are you now? And, that whole process, journey. Then people do do you know why you're doing it? And they say, well, here's the reason why. I was like, that's bullshit too. That's an ongoing journey. The reason you do something changes all the time. So like people say, why did you start Next Jump? I'm like, because I was in financial aid and I wanted to date this girl and I couldn't pay for my phone bills. They're like, but it's unlimited phone bill. I was like, not when I dated. So I'm older, right? Why the gray hair? But like also
a nutrient deficiency.
not the person I married. So that story, like my wife hates when I share it, but
Yeah.
like, once again, that doesn't matter why you started, why you're doing it now. It's an ongoing journey in this notion of there are layers and layers of this. And by the way, when you do this stuff right, as in you can tame Satan's mind, right? And you're able to go into the good stuff. Like there's a whole part here. I'm just going to zoom in here now so they can dive into parts. I'm going to jump around a little bit. When I think of the 2 things that mess up human beings, as in their mind, I'm going to categorize it as these 2 things here, addiction and abandonment issues. So I think of addiction as poison, as that Satan's mind or that parasite living inside the prey mantis. And it starts at some early age and it grows like hell. And so the more experience and the more you've tried stuff. By the way, if you have just laid in bed and you are in a coma for years and just woke up, you probably have a smaller parasite inside you. But otherwise, this addiction, and the number 1 addiction we have right now is negative predictions. Talked about prediction error, but negative predictions. We are addicted to predicting what will happen on the negative. And that is a wiring we have for survival. But that wiring for survival has gone so out of control, and all the metrics of every internet billionaire and every internet innovator have figured out is that you click twice as much on things that scare you than things that don't. So every single metric and evolution of everything we're seeing in the information age is just naturally evolving to get more of your focus, more of your clicks, and more of your attention, which is stuff that scares you. And as we shared in one of the earlier lib classes, the most stressful thing for our brain, for human beings now in this age, is persistent uncertainty. Uncertainty scares the shit out of us. We want control.
Yeah.
We want to know what's coming. But persistent uncertainty, when you wake up in the morning, and most of you at some point, maybe first thing or at some point, probably tries to look at the news, whether you get it from Twitter, whether you get it from Yahoo News, or whether you get it from the New York Times, wherever, or maybe the cross section of all of them, you're trying to figure out what happened overnight, the minute you wake up. I mean, aren't you looking for what went wrong or what's going wrong? What dumpster fire is occurring right now that you didn't even see coming? Like, what new study has come out that says that you're now sicker than you thought? Like, there's so much that's out there, but we are addicted to actually seeing it so we can predict how to save ourselves.
Well, it's true, like the examples, for instance, on plastics, or the things that now cans are plastic bags inside a can, like, it's like and so that, I mean, I think of that as sort of like fear mongering, but I'm sure it's true, some of it's true, some of it's not true, so you have to decide which thing you're gonna take seriously and not, which is like some of the uncertainty and, oh, I've been doing that for 20 years. Oh, I've been putting that cream on my face since I was 15. That's a bad thing. Now I'm putting sulfates or whatever, the poisonous chemicals on my skin. I didn't realize I was doing that. So all those things.
So
So we're looking for them, but they're also baiting us into some of those things because it gets more clicks.
when you have awareness that we all, as a human species, have an addiction, and the entire world's feeding into it, which is negative predictions. And here's what happens in negative predictions. Unhelpful thinking makes you feel more upset. Unhelpful thinking makes you feel more upset. Catastrophizing exaggerates your worries. And it's saying, don't believe the worst possible picture, because the more you actually even imagine it, it makes you take that exaggeration into reality. I know you probably all know someone who is so positive all the time that either they're literally high on weed all the time, or they're like homeless people practically, like just living a hippie life, and maybe good for them. And you're like, I don't relate to that. I don't relate to that. Like, everything's great, everything will work out. You're like, you know what? Like, I love that little image Megan had shared, like life's not lemon squeezy, easy peasy, whatever. It's like messy, stressy, lemon zesty. Like, yeah, and fuck that on top of it, right? It's that bad, right? So it's like, that's the truth. Like, and so there's negative, like,
Stuff everywhere.
wiring, persistent uncertainty every step of the way in every corner. And so our body and our mind is going to naturally predict on the negative. But here's the crazy part. If you don't recognize and catch yourself as you're starting to feed in, it's almost like we wake up in the morning and it's almost like, ooh, how much can I feed this parasite today?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Parasite's hungry, right? First thing in the morning, right before I go to bed, it's hungry all the time. So how much can I feed it? And I hope you feed it 2 biscuits and stop, as opposed to, you know what, I'm just going to give you my whole meal. And then maybe I'll go hunt for more food for you. Like this notion of, can you stop yourself sooner?
Mhm.
The unhelpful thinking, as you start doing it, when you start to get aware of it, you stop sooner. The catastrophizing, wait, like if you're sickened by people who exaggerate on the positive, I wish you would get sickened by yourself exaggerating on the negative. That exaggerated worry, it's not true. And here, there was a video, I'm not going to show it, but this video was saying what they found in a study done in Cornell was this. 1 in 33 negative predictions you make actually are accurate. 1 in 33. The actual breakdown was 85% of them are completely inaccurate. Of the 15% remaining, there was 12% that actually does better than you think. So the actual negative thing coming true is 1 in 33. How much of you has so much extra mind share and brain power that you get to throw away 32 different types of just brain cycles in a day that are completely inaccurate? And if someone said 32 out of your 33 is throwaway, inaccurate, waste of time, you're like, I can't wait to do that again tomorrow, right? And again tomorrow, and again. And I'll come up with more creative ways to add in more. And you're literally getting a return of 1 in 33. So in order to protect yourself, we predict. Predictions are what drives decision making. So we think, well, I'm not doing anything. Well, you know why people are frozen? Well, you're frozen when you don't know what to do. When you think it's going to be bad, you don't speak. When you're not sure if you're going to be laughed at, you don't speak. When you think that if I try this, it's going to waste money, waste time, people mock me, you're not going to do anything. Being frozen is the top thing that occurs. And so, addiction. We are addicted to the negative. And then here's what's interesting. So we dove into what addiction looks like. And this is what top Huberman and other things said on addiction. When it comes to addiction, there were 2 most important things to do. The first thing you have to do is you have to decide, right? So remember, it's not others imposed. It's not someone telling you, forcing you. And people hate the word discipline. People hate the word, like calling you out, awareness. Yeah, you know why calling you out sucks? It's because someone else is trying to tell you you're not aware. Once it becomes self-driven journey of finding the layers of awareness, self-driven journey of saying, ooh, I have a serious problem. Or maybe don't say ooh, but once you decide you have a serious problem, that's when you start to actually stop quicker. Stop feeding the giant parasite in your body, right? So the first part is you have to decide you have a serious problem. And that's not like, yep, I've decided. No, there's layers on layers. You can tell someone who finds it to be serious, this can describe the journey and the layers and the ongoing effort. But here's the second part that I loved. If you, this is a decision too, if you decide that I don't know enough now, but I can learn to get better at this. I don't know how to control Satan's mind that's growing, that's probably like 13 feet long in my body, but that's a problem.
Yeah.
And I think there's a way to shrink it. If you actually just believe that there's a way to learn to get better at something, you automatically begin learning. This was the insight that came. You have to decide it's serious, and then as soon as you genuinely, not performative believing, a lot of us are very good at saying the right words, but genuinely driven by yourself, believe that, wait, I could learn this. I could learn this and get better. Not immediately, but over time. That's the moment you start to actually learn. And the odds of success dramatically increase. Here's the other part that I just put on here. We're looking at some other thing about what a healthy personality, a healthy mind looks like. There was 2 main things. One is you like yourself. Now, I know that sounds kind of like, so you hear it, make sure you love yourself, like yourself. I think most of us do not like ourselves. And if you think you do, I'd like to put you at a swimming pool 5 a.m. in the morning before jumping in and see how you do with other people and see how much you like yourself. Because people who like themselves around others who like themselves, it's like they're fun to be around with. That's community. People who performative like themselves are just miserable human beings that make others catch that infection too. So anyways, the second part is healthy personality, accept responsibility. And there are 2 components of that. High agency. High agency is probably one of the most important terms that human skilling is lacking in. And then tied to accepting responsibility, they refuse to blame others. They refuse to blame others. It's not like, well, sometimes, no. They refuse to blame others, and it's always, It's in my control, even with others are tormenting me, my work environment, my boss, my board, my investors, my this, my whatever you want to add in. They refuse to blame others and they see that they have high agency despite their constraints to succeed. That's healthy personality. So going from that, the successful people, so I'm giving you some of the success before I kind of show you how sick you might be, because addiction is the least of your worries. Abandonment, I think, is worse. Successful people, they do a couple things. Speed is what shows up. The speed that they make decisions, the speed that they respond to messages, and then the speed that they can turn an idea into action. So some of you say, ooh, I can at least do the speed of messages. There's an auto response that now happens with AI, and every email that comes, boom, I'll solve that one. In fact, let it go automatically. No, I'm talking about authentic stuff. So those of you who want to kind of go through the motions to optically and performatively check these boxes, it's not for me, it's for yourself. It's not going to work. So let me jump back into abandonment issues. And why abandonment issues is very similar to all the research I was doing. Why do you have gray hair? The good stuff doesn't get there. The nutrients don't get to the hair follicle in the same way. The abandonment issue, that, by the way, all these issues are what stuff we're narrating. It prevents connection. Said another way, other people can help you if you let them. Now, people always, you hear that phrase, but do you know for someone to be able to help you what it really takes? They have to really know what the fuck's going on in there, right? Like not the, ooh, can you write me a check? Or, ooh, can you make an introduction? Or, ooh, can you just buy my stuff? But starting with what's going on in your head? Like, what's your journey? Like, what's your level of awareness? What's your level of like imagining where you're trying to go? And what's that been changing? And then what's your different ideas and approaches? And then like, how do you deal with this parasite growing every single day called Satan? Like, well, how do you deal with that? Because every day it's coming up. Walk me through it. And if I can actually be like Professor Xavier and X-Men and read your mind, really easy to help you. But the problem is I can't. So I can only react to what you're sending out there. And no matter what, you can't be telling me everything, especially when you aren't even aware of what the hell you're doing. So do you ever try to help someone who's addicted to alcohol? And like literally every time you see it, it's like they're like 6 shots in or 6, or not 6 bottles, but like whatever, so far in, and they do that. I know I have an issue. I'm like, Jesus, like, see, I can't help you until you realize you have a real issue. And then when you are trying harder than anyone to like understand it and work on it, then it's great to coach them, great to help them. But in the same way, why does abandonment issues prevent, the ability to expose what your challenges are, what you're trying to do even? It's not challenge, what you're trying to do so that someone can help. So let me just read you some of the abandonment issue stuff. I have it more printed out. And then you can decide how sick you are on the spectrum of 1 to 10. And if you are below 8, I would say you're lying to yourself. But let's see. All right, so abandonment issues. And they said, look, you've probably made a joke about showing signs of abandonment issues. What if everyone leaves me? But this notion of it is stemming from a deep-seated, pervasive fear or anxiety, right? Now, yes, they always say it traces back to foundational experiences, but what I don't like, and I'll say this up front, why am I like this is a pathway to blame. We try to figure out why I'm like this. I don't care how that little parasite got in your ass. It is there and has grown. And more are coming in. So who the fuck cares how that parasite got in your ass at one point?
Well, because it leads
Like-
to shame. When you ask the question, why am I like this? How did I get, what happened to me? What's wrong with me? It leads to shame, which inevitably will lead to blame. You're
Yes.
looking for somebody to blame.
And
ping-pong
so
back and
the
forth.
path of trying to answer that question, why am I like this, will
Yeah.
lead you to blame.
Yeah.
Blame your mother, blame your sibling, blame your teacher, blame that coach, blame that bully. It will lead you to blame. And I say
Yeah.
that parasite is emptying everyone's ass. And you're the one who's feeding it. So now it's 13 feet long, right? and there's more coming in. So at some point, who cares how it got there or why it's getting there? Stop feeding it, right? So trying to answer that question gets dangerous. Then there's the, oh yeah, don't do that. That's willpower. Willpower makes you just apply willpower, weakest muscle. You shove it down, it comes down sideways, and then everyone around you has to walk on eggshells, right? Because you seem to claim you're fine when they clearly can see you're not. So that's a little confusing, but I'll show you how we solve for abandonment. But all right, so here's some 5 signals that you have abandonment issues, right? And yes, it starts at an early age as a little parasite, but the little parasite's not the issue. It's the 13-foot piece of parasite, that's the issue. So you cling, number 1, you cling tightly and you seek constant reassurance. So remember the movie Wedding Crashers, right? Stage 5 clinger. Like, you could be stage 5 clinger, you could be stage 4, but you're probably trending at some point, clingy behavior. You become overly dependent on others to feel okay. How much do you drive how you feel? And then people say, well, I was all good until I got to work, or I was all good until I bumped. No, but like life is bumping into you. So the real test of how good you are in this is not when you're like all alone and no life is bumping into you, when the persistent, uncertain world is bumping into you and the highest degrees of stress hit. Tell me, like, are you dependent on others to solve it for you, or can you self-soothe? Can you self-solve it? That's the place you want to get to, right? People who ask, once again, the clingy, repeated questions like, are you mad at me? Like, you know, do you still want me? Do you still love me? Whatever it might be. That's all stage 5 clingy behavior. Second part, you base your self-worth on someone else's actions. So I must have done something wrong. I always mess things up. And you spend a lot of time asking yourself the question, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Right? So that's a lot of stuff people do. And there's some really positive stuff in this class, so don't get too depressed yet. 3, you push people away before they can leave you. Now, this is interesting. To mentally protect themselves from the pain of being rejected again. So you avoid vulnerable conversations. You avoid building real intimacy, the abandonment issues, as in, I'm going to walk away first. So you may threaten to walk away. If I leave them first, then I won't get hurt, right? So that preemptive notion of ejecting too soon is something that gets overdone. Number 4, you people please so they stay. Now, this is probably one of the more lethal ones that we all tend to do. People please so they stay. When you're absolutely terrified of someone leaving, you're saying yes to every plan or favor, even though you're exhausted, or pretending to love the same hobbies, or love the idea when you actually may not like it, or maybe even hate it. But not like it is different than sending a signal, that's a great idea, I love it. You pretend to share the same opinions just to feel included. You deepen your anxieties that your loved ones will leave you once they see the real you. You know that notion of, I don't want anyone to see the real me. And the real me, by the way, like if I let you see it, I'd have to hit play and let you see what's happening, even in the next hour or even the next 5 minutes, the amount of volume that will say, okay, the first part, I thought you're really smart. Now I think you're schizo. Now you're scaring me. Now like, ooh, I think you might hurt me or hurt yourself. Like, are you okay showing the real? As opposed to, I'm going to show the version that people seem to like. And at some point, you're not even quite sure what they like, but they seem to laugh at your jokes. You keep looking for jokes, and they keep actually, we found this through a lot of work we did. People are faking around you because they think that you don't know. And so everyone's playing this faking game, and it's a really vicious cycle. And so the fake version of this is really ugly. Number 5, you overanalyze every interaction for a hidden meaning. Even with verbal confirmation that everything is okay, you're still on high alert, hunting for signs that something's secretly off. There's a hypervigilance with abandonment issues. You're looking to make a self-fulfilling prophecy come true. You're searching for evidence that you're going to be left out. Maybe you reread a text over and over, dissecting every word, or you start connecting unrelated moments. You've been blindsided before, so your brain is trying to protect you by anticipating the worst. Just coming back to the addiction of negative predictions, even when things are actually fine. So the notion of abandonment is very much like, those who have a lot of gray hair. The nutrients, the good stuff is not coming to you. Human beings naturally feel oxytocin from helping other human beings, but that good stuff, connectedness, the good people can't get to you because you're so busy protecting yourself from getting hurt. And so abandonment has a very difficult thing where you can never find community. You can never build community because first off, you've got an addiction that you're letting that parasite and Satan grow, and you're blocking the good stuff from coming to you. So how do you solve for that? So even in this article, solving for it, first off, starts with awareness. The first step is overcoming abandonment issues is recognizing them. Not about figuring out who did this to me. No, oh my God, I'm doing this right now. Like the minute you start running the visuals, the narratives, and start feeding it, if you can stop it sooner, better. If you go all the way, and then after you do it, that feeling of, fuck, I did it again. If you can just say that out loud, expose it. It's literally put it in the light, expose it. If not just, okay, I told myself that. No, the act of exposing it lets people around you say, oh, Laura just recognized she did it. So I can now try to help. And maybe next time, be like, are you doing this again? Like, versus if you don't say anything, now it looks like you don't seem to know. So if I say something or insinuate, you might start to attack me for defensive measures. So there's a notion of awareness is this constant act of being able to see it and let others see it. It's layers and layers and layers. And the second part then is connected to what I said before, imagining what success looks like. But in this case, for abandonment, with other people. It's a form of gratitude. Can you practice gratitude for the right people in your life? And I said right, not just people. Because if I want to practice gratitude just for people, I just have to go wherever it's crowded. So I should just go on the subway. Gratitude for a lot of people around me, or go into a park. But you can feel so alone around a lot of people. So this notion of, it starts with, can I imagine like this person is in my life, like what success looks like? Them, me, adding value, teaming together, can I imagine it? And layers of imagining it. At first thought it was just more like, hey, we like take breaks together and socialize together. We like to eat the same foods, but then it's like, oh my God, can we, imagine together? And then can we, tame the parasite together? Can we solve through? Like, can you imagine success? What it looks like with someone? Before you go into all different ideas and approaches of what to do, the awareness and the actual imagining success with the right people, those two things alone are what dial down abandonment. It's what makes the gray hair turn lusciously dark again.
So is that what you're calling then, the community, Charlie? When we started by saying connection and community, awareness, and then imagine success with the right people. I mean, it's saying, first off, you have an addiction issue, right? Satan's mind is kind of running. You're poisoning yourself with all these negative thoughts, right? And then abandonment, recognizing when you're doing it, stopping it sooner, and starting to, imagine, or, success with the right people. I guess there's two steps. I mean, I think what we're saying is connection with others and the right people, and
So can
Yeah.
I give you
Yeah.
maybe two things that might help? One is I want to show you what's up here with this guy who's imbalanced. But before that, I had a little note from my breakfast morning notes. Find it. I liked something Chef Danny had said before, and this was for a lot of athletes, right? And sort of all the wrong notion. You do a workout and your body gets stressed and everything's out of whack. And then you know what a lot of athletes do by accident? They go and eat a steak dinner afterwards, or a steak meal. And he said to digest that steak, your body has to do another workout. You're doing two stressful things back to back. That's what creates cancer. It's what creates a breakdown. You need to let it recover, but we somehow think, well, I worked out like crazy. So instead of letting your body recover, now you get your stomach working a workout. So you do 2 workouts, and then can you imagine if you add a mental thing on top of it? And this notion of stress on stress on stress, that notion of stringing together stress is what creates chronic stress. That's the idea that something's already challenging, right? Like you're about to go swimming in the freezing cold water, right? If you add even more on top of it, this idea of a second arrow, or most of us do hundreds of arrows. I cut myself and now like, God, I'm so stupid for cutting myself. My God, I always cut, like you start adding the extras, and that addition of extras. Here's a nuance coming from the AI coach of just kind of some of the things actual people said of how they add extras. So AI coach said your brain is manufacturing a crisis by combining things. You know, when you start combining, like you did something and then you ask the question, what's wrong with me on top of it? The combination is just creating a bonfire of stress on stress on stress. So what is already challenging, you're making it that much worse. The other thing is the similar, I guess, the pattern of double burden emotional processing. You feel a negative emotion, then you feel shame about having the emotion, so you just make it even worse, right? So just a lot of bad things you have to unlearn. But I want to come into this piece here. So this was from some other smart brain person that I think was very good. And I love this. Coming back to where the world is and creating and imagining. It's a seesaw. You're going to be on one side of the seesaw. And the reason why I have a picture of what imbalance looks like, which is, imagine if you actually look like this guy here, right? Like, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a very big imbalance on the arm. There are certain sports that create this. Like if you're an arm wrestler, they tend to literally be huge on one arm and the other one can be tiny. And what happens with imbalances is that our body and our mind naturally goes to what's easier for us. So you get more and more imbalance. And so you stop using the other side to the point where, you know, the way the human organic body mind works, if you don't use it, you lose it. So you literally lose the ability to generate positive thoughts, imagine success, like kind of create the right emotions and feelings to be able to even find community, connect with people, feel love and all that stuff. But you get so good on the left side. And they said it's a seesaw, meaning you can only be on one side. So watch how you are almost always on the left side. On the left side, and the only time you're on the right side is if external factors get you there. But the real test is, can you see stress, walk up to it, swing yourself to the right side, and then step into the stress? It's a skill. If you can get yourself there and choose to go into stress, it's not a skill if you have to wait for others to get you there, right? So the left side, which is where telling you persistent uncertainty, every one of us, it's just a bad mood. You're in a bad mood and it comes stress mode, cortisol, fear, anger, disgust, shame, sadness. Think of like when you feel scarcity, desperation, feel underwater, you feel negative. How it shows up, the Satan parasite work, you're bracing for something bad to happen. It's a lot of self-doubt. And honestly, whether you do out loud or just to yourself, you are complaining about fucking everything, right? It's like almost a competition of who can make a longer list of like negative predictions combined with more doubt in the day and more things I can complain about. And whoever has the longest list won goal for the day, right? And we start again tomorrow, right? And people say, wow, you're so vulnerable, you're so honest. I'm like, no, you're heavily imbalanced. And the more you feed it, right? Think about all the difficult work that requires you to think straight, imagine, problem solve, and like go make something great. And instead, when you feel yourself feeling like, oh, heavy, have to do this, obligation work, you can do data entry, feeling, oh, obligation, stress, hormone, scarcity, complaining. You can still be a kick-ass data entry person. But if you have to invent something, and the tools like AI or whatever else is there, even cheap freelance skills or interns for free, just because they need job experience for free, all there. If you can imagine it and think of ways to even approach it and get people to do it and get excited, like it's upon you and your mind. But if you have, heavy obligation, I'm going to fake I'm excited, you don't think that they can sense and feel it. If they aren't feeling it now, just working with you a few more times, they'll be like, this person's a liar. I'm not falling for, that again. Versus the right side, this notion of play. You're creating something, excitement, energy, imagination, like, and not like fake shit, but like in really hard stuff, being able to get there.
And Terry's asking, Charlie, you mentioned choosing to go into stress. Why would we do that? To practice being there? Sorry, did not quite follow.
So when I think of choosing to go into stress, I want to ask, like, are you ever curious how strong you are? Like physically. I know, Terry, you run. You curious, like, how fast you could run a mile or half marathon, or the next 5K? Like, you get curious, right? Like, how good am I? The only way to know how good you are on the mental front is to go into more difficulty. Not like when you're given a layup, right? And you know why we do that is because then I can see what getting better looks like. I felt short there. I was like, I'm curious how good I am. So otherwise you never know. Like, I seem to be really good all the time because I get a lot of compliments and people always say great things like, God, you're so put together and you're so buttoned up. Let's see, what does it say about abandonment issues? You're constantly basing your self-worth on someone else's actions, praise, constant reassurance, stage 5 clear. Put that all aside. Can you go in your zone? And can you say, I am the difference maker? Like, there's a problem. I think I can solve that. So what does it start with? Am I taming my Satan's mind, right? Am I even aware? Like, oh my God, what I'm doing, and someone said something, and I think they're laughing. Am I able to tame those faster? Then am I able to like get excited, almost salivate of like, that would be really cool to figure out. And then with that, and by the way, all these things you're exposing, right? Because if you like to do it in hiding, that's abandonment issue people, right? I like to do it myself so nobody can judge me, no one can laugh at me, no one can score me. They're all gonna leave me anyways, right? So I'm just gonna do it in my own head by myself and only show you what's polished. That's abandonment issue, right? So your gray hair will never get lusciously dark. Abandonment. And then as things don't work, your Satan's mind is growing the parasite of negative predictions. So like at some point, you're not even really trying. Like, and the notion of how playful you are, there's a lot of research that the single biggest score of resiliency, which means when difficult stuff happens, how resilient you are, is how playful you are in that difficulty. Just like the swimmers, right? If you are genuinely playful, right? Have you ever seen something really difficult? And yes, it hits you. First, you have the gut punch. You're like, oh God, this could be the end of me. This could be it. This could be the end. So you might have all that. And then you're like, oh my God, stop saying that. Because the more I feed that, I'm exaggerating, right? Like the last time I thought it was the end, there was this great thing where all the difficult stuff you faced, you have 100% success rate in surviving them. That's why you're here. And this notion of I wasn't accurate before, but why this time you think, right? After 32 false predictions of being, on the negative, you still believe this is the one now, right?
Yeah.
Like, and when you do it, you're feeding it, making it worse, getting yourself more upset. Yeah. Further and further away from the seesaw on the right side, you're going left. Yeah. And so what it takes to take a hard right, and not just because you're in a good mood or when you're feeling like I just got paid my paycheck, no, but when it's stressful, right? Are you able to generate that oxytocin? Not somebody's got to do it for me, but can you self-generate it? We want to teach a class at some point called Shivington, which is our own version of the Jewish word shirt, but it's going to be more meaningful because there's different nuances. But Shivington is the ability to embrace difficulty and then go in. Like the notion of like, no matter how difficult, like it's like saying, ooh, this is like the next level in the game I've been given. Can you beat it? Right? Like, and then if you try and you're like, shit, I'm not good enough at the game. Oh, well, can you learn the skills then? Right? And all of that will start with first, stop saying you can't do it, right? Stop feeding that negative. which by the way, I'm not saying that there isn't a place for that. It's just that it's overdone. Your muscle's way too big on that side. So how do I rep the muscle on the right side? And at first it will feel fake. It will feel like I'm lying to myself, right? Just like you don't really see how you're exaggerating and lying about the catastrophized negative. Like, yeah, this side will not feel real. But as you keep going, self-choosing to go into difficulty, and then self-choosing to first get yourself mentally ready for it, right? It's almost like, am I in the right mindset? Do I feel playful? There's a thing that we shared, and we're spending a lot of time with some amazing artists. This guy Ezra is one of them. And I was saying, great artists are almost always working on 6 to 7 projects at once. And they're able to bounce between, and they can see when they're in the other side of the seesaw on the left side, you can't make progress on any one. But when you get in the flow, you're on the right side, you can probably progress all 7. Like not at the exact same time, but like, it's like your ideas start connecting and, oh, wow. I like that image and that picture, that's high agency. This notion of they can bend reality to their will. They don't accept no as a final answer. Like they can make things happen, like through self-generated energy versus low agency is like, you're blaming everyone. Why am I having a bad day again? Goddamn Trump, he's doing it again. Or goddamn, like, like, I don't know, like somebody, right? Whatever it is, like, like mom or government, or I don't know what, like, or climate, like, rainy day today. Where's the sun? Goddamn clouds. Or like, yeah, there's a part of, you don't seem to have agency, control over your own destiny. And we're spending time helping and studying some artists because do you know how hard it is to create an authentic piece? And they were saying when it's inauthentic, it doesn't sell. So only authentic art pieces tend to sell. There's rare exceptions, but generally speaking, it's an authentic creation coming out of you. 6 to 7 at a time. And by the way, you got to pay rent. So if you don't sell 10 to 15 pieces a year, you're not going to even have the studio and you're not going to have a place to live. Like under that pressure.
To be able to get in the right mood and
Yeah.
and get oxytocin flowing with that kind of, with that kind of pressure.
Just maybe kind of one more slide and then I'll just end it. This is the whole notion of when you're in the right place, creating, leading, imagining success is way harder than anyone thinks. It's not just about feeling good. It's not about being positive. It's about taking repeated, iterated shots, then taking the hits, punches, criticism, or most often silence that makes you feel like shit. Like there was a piece that I think I added here. The most common thing we will get to everything is what is no response. Like literally no response. There's a piece I added here. I liked it. A no reply is a reply. Sometimes it's the loudest answer. This idea of no reply is a reply. When you get no reply, in essence, no one is ever too busy for the people they care about. Sometimes it just means you're not a priority. So they keep choosing not to respond. Let them. Don't beg, don't wait. Their silence is an answer. Give your energy to someone who doesn't make you question your worth. The whole point is you're not worth responding to. Like, and people say, well, I didn't know what to say. Well, if you gave a reaction, it gives me clues and direction to try something, but no response is the single most common thing. Oh, by the way, on the seesaw lady, this is what she had. The cortisol, stress hormone, right? Oxytocin is a bonding hormone. The very bottom saying metabolize life through connection. Same as saying metabolize life through community. When you find that swim team 5 a.m. teammate, even one, life-changing. It literally is the solution that can solve every difficult challenge. But on the flip side, abandonment, you live instead of just defensively. I'm just protecting myself, right? I'm protecting myself. And as a result of that protecting yourself, there is no nutrients, the good stuff coming to you. Coming back to this slide real quick when I was trying to finish. Yeah, silence is the top thing that will show up when you create something. And taking that kind of feedback to re-energize yourself and try again with another point of view, a fresh iteration, and do that repeatedly, super hard. And has massive emotional toil. Sorry, we did not have time to make slides, but
Feels like it's like a giant rab, you know, we talk about the rabs, the things that make it hard for people to give to, it's like defensiveness, I'm just thinking about unlearning. How much you have to unlearn.
well, I think
It's-
about
you know,
addiction versus
yeah,
an abandonment
And
issues.
abandonment both,
If
yeah.
you don't recognize you have an addiction to make
Yeah.
negative predictions, it's really hard to help someone who especially refuses and maybe even digs their heels in, gaslights you, comes at you for even insinuating that you have a problem, right?
Mhm.
Abandonment issues, right? I have trust issues. What? You have trust issues. What do you mean? You're the one just now accusing me of not, like when you have abandonment issues and everything is about, well, did you see they laughed at me? I'm like, wait, like, how do you feel about what you did? Regardless of
Yeah,
the feedback.
right.
And getting to a place to recognize, wait, I have those things, the awareness, seeing it, exposing it, being aware of it, layers of awareness on it, right? Not who do I blame, not like I shouldn't do that, right? That's all stuff that makes it worse. But actually the journey, exposing the journey, exposing like you problem solving on this, layers of awareness, and then layers of the whole belief. I think I can get better at this. I think I can stop feeding that goddamn parasite, right? And then there's wait, I think I can start letting the good nutrients come to me because I am the one blocking it. Like that notion of the problem is in my mind, but the solution also sits in my mind. I think I can learn this. And as soon as you realize you can learn it, and you're actually truly not fake, not optically, not performatively saying these things, you're like on your way.
Yeah.
All right, we need to catch a train or else we'll be very late. If you guys want to chat, yeah, you could amongst yourselves. Actually, you know what? We're going to give Laura a chance, who is the moderator who doesn't really converse a lot with the group, but give her a chance, or anybody else. Greg has been on fire. He's in the UK right now, in the UK office. Greg, if you want to jump in and help lead, he's one that I would trust more than anyone in this room right now to give you good thoughts and advice and thinking against that. But we're going to run or else we're going to miss our train, so.
Yes, feel free to put in the chat if you have any questions. I know Monica was already sharing that she is an expert blamer. I am also an expert blamer. I like to blame circumstances. I like to blame other people. I like to bring anything that comes along. It's just easier. So totally get it.
Once again, there's a little nuance you'll see that if you find yourself like mumbling, whispering, it's usually the signal you already are judging yourself to be shameful of what you're about to say. So use your big voice. When you want to expose stuff, I want to make sure you see it, right? Not like, oh, well, you should see what I said. Like, don't whisper it, like literally speak bigger.
UK/boss, did you guys have some?
I saw that.
Just unmuted, so I just didn't know if you had something.
Yeah, I was good. I was just gonna add a little bit of the like on one hand, I was a bit surprised to see frustration because we've talked about that being a hijacked emotion. I was a little surprised that wasn't in there, but I could see to an extent, like at least this is more. I've talked about this. I could see frustration masking some of the other pieces. You know, fear, yeah, feeling guilty or, you know, some of those, I think, pieces that I don't necessarily consider myself kind of the abandonment side, but I can see that I think frustration can come out masking some. And then there's frustration, which if you're in the heat of the battle, innovating, that's where I can feel more, that mismanaged expectations of hard mode when you think you want it to be easier and it's just not. So I think that gets at a little bit of emotional toil. Charlie was touching on.
I think
But
frustration is also a form of the negative prediction addiction, because you get frustrated because you're making, negative predictions, whether it's about the circumstances, whether it's about other people. Like, I think that kind of goes under that addiction class. That's kind of how I'm internalizing it.
I think it depends on the frustration, because it's if you think it's going to be easier, that's almost a more positive prediction, right? Like, so it's like if it falls short of that, then it's like I can act surprised, I can feel surprised. I don't even act surprised. I can feel surprised, even though if I actually took a step back, it's kind of like I could easily challenge my thinking of like, why did I think it'd be as easy as I'm acting? Anyways, I didn't mean to take off course. That was not I think the point Charlie was making.
So do you think like type 2 people were more on the abandonment issue side?
No. If I'm understanding correctly, what that's getting at.
Did anyone else have any like reactions or thoughts or questions? It was funny, the like whole like lightness of like you're either kind of in the stress mode or fear mode versus you're either on like kind of like the playful or oxytocin mode. It actually made me think of like actually just learning. In order to learn something new, you kind of have to be in that green zone too, because if you've ever thought of like back of like more traditional learning, if you had to like cram for a test and you were like so performative and you're like, I have to, this is tomorrow, I'm behind, if I don't get a, A on this test, I'm going to fail the course. Or like, if you start building it up to be so much high pressure, you're actually not going to retain a lot of the information that even if you're like trying to do it really hard, versus like if you could get to that place of, on the lighter side, then it's much easier to kind of take on newness. It's something that popped into my head when we were talking about those two sides.
I think the seesaw imagery is helpful because it is kind of like you're here and then suddenly you're not. It's like suddenly you're in like, and it just like flips back and forth. That dual nature that happens. I think the hard part is it's, at least for someone like me, it's easy to fall into the negative. Like all the habits, the bad habits are built in, but to get back on the playful, it's like double, it's like having to like really push up to get into that. So I think this will work there.
I like that example that you gave of more almost like the performative when it's for like a test or so, where it's almost for someone else. And I think for me, when I see this, to me, I feel like I just like had therapy in this room for the past hour, which I absolutely love. But to me, like I like to integrate, like if I'm in a workshop or a lesson or something like this, starting to think of how do I not just leave it on notes, but how do I start integrating it? And one of the things that I thought about in terms of what you just said is more, what if I take it not for the performance or to prove it to someone else, but rather take it like at a lighter base, but for me, almost like start doing it like on a day-to-day, whether it's maybe even using the AI tool for like, this is how I'm feeling, like kind of keeping those patterns and see, okay, this is where I'm more on like the negative side of the seesaw. This is where I'm also recognizing, because I feel like sometimes we're so focused on this is all the negative self-talk, and this is like whenever I'm on the bad side, that we don't even give recognition of. I'm sure there's also times that we're on the love or the joy or the play, like how do we also integrate at the bare minimum, the recognizing that we also do that too, and not be so hard on ourselves in a way.
Like recognizing, ooh, good mood. What do I do? This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me think of the like when Charlie referenced it, but we had that discussion with the artists, and that one woman was saying, and I liked what Charlie talked about is they have a pressure of selling, like in the sense of, especially if they're young and up and coming. But this woman was saying that every time she tried to make a piece of art to sell it, that like it didn't sell well, and that you know, when she tried to create something that she wanted to create, I don't think she probably sold all that every time she did that either, but she said there was you know, there were people that bought it, a higher chance of people also wanting it. And I think I like that definition of being proud of something that like you want to, you know, you're proud of, like it's something you want to do and you're proud of the process. And then, but there's a second piece of others also recognize that. I think it's just the sequence.
It made me think of Danny, Chef Danny talks about, you know, jamming basically, like that's when the best food comes out, it's like an art exercise, but like it's a combination of the right mood and the right situation and the right people around you.
And I think for Danny, I mean, I've talked about this, so you certainly have Tom. It's like he's just trained especially in the cooking piece of that number two. Like, can you see what success, like what it looks like, what winnings look like? And it can be in a very mini sense of like, all right, here's a dish. He's like done his own cooking visceral drafts so much and he's got a lot of craft, but it's like he can envision what success, what a dish will look like, almost like in the moment.
Because he's in the creative mode,
Yeah,
right?
But that's like
So,
green zone.
yeah. So I've been working a lot on sort of this inner child work for the last couple months. And a lot of that self-abandonment has come up, actually. It's, you know, not about like what your parents did, like how they like, you know, neglect and all that, but a lot of it is what have I done to myself, right? When I try to people please or trying to, you know, be like the easygoing person and just go with the flow, it's great. Like you just fit in and flow, you know, go with the flow. But a lot of it comes down to self-abandonment. I didn't speak up my truth, you know, like if I didn't feel good about something, you know, just keep quiet, right? There's no need to like make a fuss about it. That's just like on a small thing, but like sometimes self-criticism, you know, like I'm just not good enough, who am I to blah, 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 you know? So all of that is all self-abandonment. It's like self-sabotage. But it's coming to awareness first and self-acceptance, that it's okay. You know, that's like sort of the light and the dark. We talk about the yin and yang of life, right? So we can't all be in the love and light that we all want to be. There's going to be like the darkness and the shadow part of ourselves. And that's all make us whole, right? We're all like a whole human being. But it's really embracing that part also as well. Like that's, hey, that's part of me. So it's a journey and yeah, I'm still working on it, but.
Totally. It's funny with the whole like negative addiction to like negative predictions part, where it's like, it's funny because it's like, I feel like no one wakes up in the morning. It's like, I want to be in a really bad mood all day today. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it just feels so counterintuitive where we're like, why do we end up spending so much mental energy on that if that's like generally not a place we want to spend time in? I don't know the answer to that, but like, I think the imbalance part rings true to me, where it's just like, how much time are you actually spending on the other side? Can you start working to balance that back out, even if it's a heavier lift to get going?
so funny. I know you mentioned like no one wakes up wanting to be in a bad mood, but I think people do wake up thinking like today's gonna be hard or today's gonna suck, just because like that's just the general vibe of the world. And we've talked about it before, where for people like me and Tom, it's like more of a protective instinct than anything. It's like survival mode. Yeah. If I think it's gonna be bad, I'm not gonna be disappointed. I'm not gonna get my hopes up, which is a bad habit. But that is so funny.
But a lot of time we wake up thinking about the things I didn't do yesterday, what else is on my to-do list. So I like to wake up with gratitude. This is my morning practice. I think I shared last time. When I'm in bed, like when you first just wake up and you're sort of in that sort of half asleep, half awake zone, this is like the first 15, 20 minutes, you're closest to your subconsciousness, right? Because you're not fully engaging with the world. So use that 15, 20 minutes like really wisely. So I like to wake up, I tune into my heart and I feel the love and gratitude, everything that I'm grateful for in life, it could just be the littlest things, but you can literally feel your heart expand. Like just be in that space, before jumping out of bed. It could be 5 minutes, right? If you didn't have the time. But that's how I like to wake up in the morning. It's in the space of gratitude. And that we have control over, right? Like if there's all these worry thoughts come in, you're like, okay, I'm just gonna put that aside because you have agency over your own thoughts and emotions. And like, I'm gonna choose, you know what? It's a beautiful day out today, right? And whatever else you're grateful.
It's a interesting, I remember a while back, Charlie Megan had shared something where it's like our brain walks around with like a set of like highlighters. It's like you have like a green highlighter and a red highlighter. And it's like, how often are you highlighting on what side? It's because you're like looking for things. Like, have you ever noticed it's like if you get like a new car, then all of a sudden you start noticing all that same type of car. It's like they've always been there, but now you're just more attuned to noticing it. So it's just like, how much are you like highlighting stuff in a red highlighter versus like how much are you highlighting it with a green highlighter? It's both like a practice. So. Any other thoughts, online folks? You want to unmute or?
I have like a question. When Charlie was talking about those like levels, but his slide was like writing, but I didn't see like a picture of these like levels. Maybe I missed it. I was trying to take a screenshot of it.
Oh, are you talking about the abandonment article, Nicole?
Yeah.
It was just like five signals of like self-abandonment issues. And it was like an article he found online. I think it was from like Self or something, if I remember the things. If you like Google 5 signs of abandonment or whatever, the longer article might be there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I
Are you in Spain, Nicole?
No, I'm at my dad's, thus the ugly brown sofa. I didn't
Like,
blur.
it's a
I'm trying to be authentic here. Yeah, so I'm checking in on him. But yeah, so that was, yeah, I'll Google that. Yeah.
I got it. Kathy just found it, so she put it in the chat.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Brian.
Oh, wow. Brian's got like notes here.
Ah,
I was gonna say, Nicole, I noticed he didn't have the article up, so I was like, oh, I'll just
yeah,
type these down.
it was like a lot of his notes, but yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. Hey, one thing I'll add, I view these all as tools, and one that hit me was the silence might come. I think the wording was the silence is the person's not important to you right now, or it might not be. That is such an external perspective that I know I don't take when I don't respond quickly, because I'm trying to get it right. I'm overanalyzing and I'm not thinking about how that comes off to the person who sent an email, whether it was an individual or a group. So that was a very cool tool, or like a wake up of, wow, I wasn't even thinking about that perspective. So I'd be curious if others picked up on that. That was almost like an add-in that Charlie threw up on the screen, but that was a big takeaway for me. And actually I have some follow-ups for some people on this very call that I know I did that with when I was traveling last week.
I think when there's like silence, we fill in the blank for the other people, right? And it's like, then it can be wild. That's when you create like narratives that just get like, where did you come up with that? Because it's just like, because there's nothing, you want to kind of come up with a reason for it. So then you come up with like wild explanations that might be very, very far from what the actual truth is. But then regardless.
And
Yeah.
Charlie does specifically send a lot of emails to us that we don't respond to. So I'm sure he's annoyed.
Hashtag baggage.
So like, oh, sorry about that, buddy. Yeah.
I think a practical takeaway for me from that, even Laura, the way you just framed that of, well, the other person is filling in the blank, is, yeah, and this would be friends, family, you guys, like Tom asked me about prototype. I was like, oh yeah, let me do that when I get back from my New York trip, but I haven't done that yet. And I think in the moment, if I would have just said, hey, sounds good, let me think about it. Right. I'm saying that out loud to Tom. It's really natural because we're like in the Zoom, or if I was in the room with you. And I guess these stack up, right? And if Tom, you send me another email, I'm like, Brian didn't respond to last time. And I know you just said, kind of giving me a little bit of grace there of, hey, well, we do that with Charlie and Megan too. But it's not a lot of effort for me personally just to shoot that note back to say, hey, let me think about this, or I'm digesting it, because then, Laura, that would be, okay, that isn't silence. You're saying, oh yeah, Brian's going to get back to me next week, or whatever the case might be. So I just a very practical, maybe something I don't often think of, maybe we take for granted, is that the other person is cool with not hearing for a while, but why leave it to chance?
And I'd say, Brian, as you work on your visceral draft 0-0 skills, you'll be able to even not tell yourself, I need another week to put my thoughts together. You're working on it, Brian. I know it.
Yeah, and even a good catch is, like I said, a week, because I think it's been about a week since Tom emailed me. But yeah, definitely a good call out, Greg, about just taking that shot immediately.
All the time, because I mean, listen, there are times, especially in kind of more dangerous situations, where you want to put your thoughts together. But I often will start to view it. I work a lot with Wayway. If it's almost like a signal that, like, when I'm like, I'll get to that later, or when I have time. It's a signal that something is triggering for me, that like I'm uncomfortable being a bit messier in the beginning. And so, and it often is fooling me, because when I come back and I sit down later for it, I can lose some of my visceral intuition from what I had in that very beginning. So anyways, I know that's not what you're saying. You're all making really valid points. I'm just saying that is another option. As you get better at like just kind of having the messier part up front, then there's just a lot less eggshells that build over time.
Greg, no need to apologize. That's something I do too. I think you gave a great example of, these are tools that we can absolutely stack, and then the sense making and real time awareness, right? Of, oh yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I took that at like, I think it's completely on topic, Greg, because it's a really good one to stack on, which is the 0-0.
No.
We shall see you all next week. Take care.